What is up, everybody? We have 10 minutes to talk with our very own Ryan Muckenhern on how to clean a muzzleloader. Now, muzzleloaders, there's several different styles of muzzleloaders. You can get into muzzleloading about as deep as you want. You can go super crazy long-range muzzleloader. You can go very traditional. But one thing they have in common is after you fire a few shots down range, they can be prone to fouling. And eventually, as much as I hate to say it because I hate cleaning firearms, and I've even ruined a couple muzzleloaders by not cleaning them, Ryan, you got to clean the darn thing. So that's why we have you to walk us through the basics of cleaning your muzzleloader.
Yes. So as Mark had mentioned, a couple different kinds. I'm going to break these up categorically into traditional, modern inline, and then high performance advanced. We're going to focus on the modern inline because that's what most folks have. And we're going to be talking about not black powder because that's a whole different conversation.
Okay.
But not black powder. Black powder substitute, not smokeless powder, black powder substitute, not black powder. And so, yes, Mark, I have also ruined a couple of muzzleloaders. I've had a couple of muzzleloaders of mine ruined by failure to cleaning, improper cleaning, no cleaning, cleaning gone awry. A ton of different headlines. But there's a couple of things that you really just need to focus on, and it's really not as daunting a process as a lot of people talk about with muzzleloaders. Because I think a lot of folks bought one, they took it out, they shot it, they put it away, they went to go get it months, possibly later, and they found out that the bore that used to have the swirly stuff in it was now a sewer pipe.
Yes.
And it can be very dissuasive towards recommendation or purchase of another.
Well, and it could be even a person who was like, I'm going to try muzzleloading maybe 20 years ago or something.
Yep.
Things have changed a little bit. Powders have changed a little bit.
A lot of it.
A lot of it.
Yep.
So, if you were in that camp of, man, I just don't want to fiddle with that again, like you said, maybe not as daunting as you, or even just as it was.
Yes. And that it has changed. It has changed a lot. I started muzzleloading in probably 2004, 2005, I'm going to bet. And I was using, at the time, the best of the best propellants that were supposed to be non-corrosive or low corrosive or what, and it was a lie. And so I've got one of those muzzleloaders. Actually, got a couple of them that have bores that are no longer 50 caliber. They're not any given caliber. It just looks like a pipe that has a lot of stalactites and stalagmites growing in it. So fast forward, a decade and a half, almost 2 decades, and the propellant technology has changed quite a bit. And if you're careful and you're just starting out with this, you're in a good position because there are some propellants that show way, way, way lower rate of corrosion, or whether or not they're even corrosive is still in question. You can save yourself a lot of headache and heartache using these propellants. And if I'm going to make a shameless plug for one, it's Blackhorn 209. It is a loose powder, not in pellet form. I've been shooting it since the late thousands, and it is magical stuff. It cleans very easily. It cleans very much like regular smokeless powder would clean. It's very akin to shooting a shotgun, in my opinion. And cleans up real nice, shoots real good, meters real good. It's a great product. I can not say enough about it.
Because there's more, you talk about black powder substitutes.
Yes.
I mean, there's several of them out there, but I know you've seen great success with that specific one. I have as well. Yep. I think maybe even you turned me on to that.
Yeah.
It just appears to be pretty darn good stuff.
It is, yeah. But if you don't use it, that's not a bad thing either. The same steps and rules are going to apply. Just a couple of considerations to make. The biggest thing is powder fouling. So black powder substitute, even Blackhorn 209, is not smokeless powder. And it does do things differently inside of your bore. It does seem to oxidize in a very particular way. Gets a little crusty, a little cruddy. And if you want consistency with your muzzleloader and you want a lifetime of use out of it, you do have to keep up with it. So when you're shooting it, these are guns that you are going to clean more than you're going to clean your centerfire rifle. And again, not that big of a deal. You don't need a ton of stuff to do it with most modern inlines. You just need the right stuff. So just breaking down the list of what we have here, a good cleaning rod or range rod. This is a range rod. I have used it as a cleaning rod. A couple things I like about it. It's sturdy. It's aluminum, so not steel. We don't put steel on steel in your barrel. Carbon rods work great too. The coated rods are good. The coating can come off. And exposed steel if it is a steel rod underneath. So I like an aluminum or a fiberglass rod or a carbon rod if you're going to pick something. This I have installed a bore guide on, so this actually meets my bore and centers the rod so that I'm not scraping the edges of the barrel, either the crown or the rifling.
Okay.
And this is fundamentals that exist in modern center fire cleaning practices as well. Use a bore guide, use a chamber guide, use something so that your rod isn't smoking your barrel. A good brush, I use these bronze brushes as well as plastic brushes. By and large, I prefer plastic brushes. I couldn't find my plastic brush, so I brought in a bronze brush. You'll notice it is unused.
Because you've been using your plastic brush.
Because I use plastic brushes. Okay. Not because I think this is going to wear down the barrel at all, but they just seem to last longer. They clean easier. Like these bristles will fold over out of the way and they can come off. And like I found the little bristle bits inside of my breech plug, and it's kind of a PETA for me, but a bronze brush will work just fine.
A PETA?
Yeah, it's an acronym.
Okay.
I shouldn't have said it on a podcast. A bore mop, you can use patches as well. I use both patches, bore mops. And then a couple of things, a universal solvent, isopropyl rubbing alcohol, between 70 and 99%. It does wonders. It's a degreaser. It is a solvent. It breaks up particulate buildup, and it leaves your bore dry. A good gun treatment, oil, lubricant, or rust preventative. This is called G96. Again, another magical product, pretty hard to find. Get it online. And for muzzleloaders, anti-seize. I'm not going to open the bottle because if you know what anti-seize is, the second I open this bottle, I will resemble the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. It gets in you, on you, with you the second you touch it.
Is there a...
No,
you're using...
You just commit.
Okay.
Yeah, you're just going to be silver for a few days. It's okay. So once you fire your muzzleloader a few times, you're going to notice that there's going to be a load resistance change. And this is two parts, possibly. One, it's crud in the bore that's building up. Certain powders are going to show a higher propensity of this buildup. You're going to have more resistance the more you go. You may need to do an intermediate cleaning on the range. It's not uncommon. The more modern stuff shows less of that propensity. But if you're using preformed pellets or some of the other substitutes out there, you might get a little bit more. The other resistance comes from potentially sabot material. So if you're shooting a traditional sabot, it's funny to say. If you're shooting a sabot bullet, sabot, as a lot of people refer to it, the plastic from that sabot or the polymer, whatever they're using, actually depositing on your bore is a very real thing. They make some products that reportedly eat that up. Okay. I think the only way to get rid of it is with like mechanical force, i.e. scrubbing that bore. So sometimes that happens. And so if you're on the range and you're finding that you're getting varying load pressure shot to shot and it's getting worse and worse, it's time to clean that gun. So a few things right off the bat. Most modern inlines work on similar principles. The hinge design is getting to be more and more popular. We're seeing more of these where they almost look like a single shot or break open or side-by-side shotgun, in which we use a lever, a squeegee, or a tourney, and it opens the action up, and the breech plug is removable. So we'd pop that breech plug out. Stand by.
Generally threaded in.
Threaded. Oh, it's still going. Jeez. Goodness gracious.
It's
and
like
we got it out.
It's like one of those like extended family guy clips.
Yeah, where he fights the chicken for the whole episode. So once you have the breech plug out, you have full access to the bore, typically. At which point I would first start with probably a soaked patch or mop. And I like isopropyl for this. I'll give a few passes down there, get that stuff broken up, and get that solvent kind of working on it. Then I'll take the agitating, that's what I'm trying to say, the brush, and I'll break that crud up completely. Mm-hmm. I'll then re-soak a patch or the mop, get back through there, give it another scrub with the brush, and start getting down to the bore.
And you're going from bore to breech?
Breech.
Or breech to bore?
To muzzle.
Breech to muzzle.
Yep.
What's your thinking there? Just pushing it away from all the...
Correct. I don't want that stuff coming back in. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Makes sense.
And depending on your gun, you may not be able to do that, and I understand as well. that if you have to go from muzzle down, so be it. So get all that crud out of there. And then if we're still shooting, I like a dry bore. So then I'll take a clean patch or a clean mop. I'll put that alcohol on it, a couple passes through there, let it dry. And then before I load, I snap 2 or 3 caps in there, get a little soot in the bore, load and go.
Interesting. So you're not firing like a fouling shot before you hunt?
No, I'll do the snaps, the caps.
And that's enough?
Yep, typically.
Okay.
Yep. So when you're done with it, let's say for the season, process repeat. At that point, once I get done and I clean the bore of all the particulate and the powder fouling and any wad material, sabo material, whatever we have going on in there, I like a light oiling on the bore just to prevent corrosion. Now, this is an important note, I should say, that the next time you go out to shoot this gun, you're going to have very different results if you have an oiled bore or lubricated bore and a clean bore. So when I put mine away at the end of the season, they get a light oiling on the bore, and that's a soaked patch. I, again, like to use G96. I get that well lubricated and protected. I, of course, lubricate and protect the outsides, any surface on the inside of the receiver as well, to include the firing pin channel, anywhere where that powder residue can get in and on. Because if corrosion's going to start, it's going to start there, where that powder residue has touched, and potentially compromising the metal. All that gets cleaned, and then...
and that's all with the G96 then?
Yep,
Okay.
I use a lot of that. And then for goodness sakes, make sure that you clean your breech plug. And I like to boil mine in hot water when I'm trying to break up all the crud in there, get all that softened up, or soak it in some sort of solvent. Again, alcohol does a good job. Get all the crud out of that breech plug, get it dry, get it oiled so that it doesn't rust, and then put that anti-seize on those threads. Because I don't know how many muzzleloaders over the past 15 or 17 years of doing guns professionally that the removal of the breech plug was the most daunting process. And if it comes down to having to use heat, we can potentially change the temper of the breech plug. If you're not careful with it, you can goof up the barrel. This part, anti-seize on those threads, and then put it back in finger tight so that it is serviceable and removable, so that when you get to it the next year or the next part of the season or whatever, you can just simply pull it out, wipe that bore out with another soaked patch or mop with rubbing alcohol, get it dry, snap a couple caps, load and go.
Yeah, you're not saying to yourself, how do I get an impact wrench to attach to this here breech plug? Because
I've been there.
I mean, it's like it just becomes just fused.
It does.
In there.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan. So, real quick, basic. The only solvent that you're using down the bore is just isopropyl.
A lot of times.
Just the alcohol.
ISO and G96.
Okay.
Does a good job.
Okay. I like that. Simple. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the bore guide there. That's a good idea. Mop, brush. Not as daunting as I thought.
It's not. Just a little more maintenance than you may be accustomed to with your center fire guns, shotguns included. Because, again, the chemicals inside of that propellant do seem to be a bit more caustic than everything else. A lot of these...
The buildup is just happens quicker.
Yeah. A lot of these more modern guns I'm seeing come into the shop here and that I'm purchasing and recommending, the metal treatments that they're doing on them now, like nitride, for example, seemingly impervious treatment. It's not. I mean, you can break it down, but it takes a lot of work to do it. So anything that's black nitride finished, they seem to be far more resilient. Anything that's Cerakoted, and some of the true stainless finishes seem to do a really, really good job of holding back corrosion, rust, whatever, build up over time. But don't neglect them. Don't fire them and take it for granted and put them away. Use the good propellant technology. It'll pay off in the long run for sure. There's no reason that if you buy a muzzleloader, and most of these things are pretty economically priced, you shouldn't have to treat it like it's a throwaway gun. It's not like I got 3 seasons of use out of it. This is something that you can have for decades if you stay up on it, for sure.
What about things like patches. I see you have the mop there.
Hmm?
Is that are you using that in lieu of patches?
No, I also use patches.
Okay.
Yep. I didn't bring patches.
Okay.
But just regular cotton patches.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. They're a great way to put a lot of solvent or protectant on at one point in time. And they're a good visual indicator too. If you push a patch down and it comes out and it's still black and cruddy, you've got more work to do with the brush to break that stuff up and get it out of there, and some more solvent perhaps. But then, when a patch comes out clean, that means that your bore is clean as well.
And that's all just here, just eyeballing it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you so much.
Of course.
For talking with us about this today. You may have saved a few muzzleloaders out there.
I hope so. If I can only save one, that's it. Just one.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you again, Ryan. Start muzzleloading if you haven't. If you have, probably clean your muzzleloader. I know I just came off a muzzleloader hunt and need to clean mine yet, so I'll be getting to that. But now I have the tools that I need to go do that. So if you have any cool muzzleloading tips, let us know. Comment below. And other than that, happy hunting, everybody.
See ya. That was a good, clean 10-minute talk.
Yeah.
We only went 16 minutes and 15 seconds. Hot dog.
I like it. I used to use a product called boar butter.
Yep.
Back when I used to clean my muzzleloader.
I still use boar butter. Not on these.
What do you use it for?
My traditional gun. But that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Different cleaning regimen.
Yeah.
No petroleum-based cleaning products.
Why?
They have a weird reaction with black powder. So I use boar butter, Dawn dish soap, boiling water, elbow grease, and alcohol.